Okay, so one of the questions I get asked sometimes is, which one would you choose? So this is a very typical uncommon question because at this point the client or whoever you're presenting to does not feel fully confident, or they feel like they have full ownership over the brand yet. And it's your job as a designer to instill that confidence and to instill that ownership and to make them feel like they're part of the brand just as much as you are. So I never present directions that I don't full-heartedly love and really root for. So only present work and directions that you absolutely love and encourage equally. So this is what I usually say, is that I encourage them equally. But if I feel like, as a designer, based on the brief and the strategy, that there's a specific direction that will serve the brand the best, then I will push for that direction, and I will also say why, so they can understand the reason behind it. And it's not based on a personal preference. Always push for the direction that will really serve the brand best and will stand the test of time. Now, the second common question I get asked is, I don't like this. Can we change it? So this is very common in the initial feedback of a presentation that I get. They immediately blurt out the first thought that they have in their mind, which is good. You need this raw initial feedback, but it is your job to be able to really transform that raw feedback into constructive feedback. Because more often than not, sometimes we expect constructive feedback to come to us in a very professional and natural way. But actually, most people do not know how to construct their own feedback, so they kind of blurt out feelings and emotions and thoughts that come to them, and you need that raw material to be able to work it out. So when something like this gets asked you need to break it down. Take them through it step by step. What don't they like about this certain thing? Why don't they like it? What if they saw it in this way? What if they saw it in that format? And you're gonna see that after asking a series of mini questions, you're gonna find that there is more to the feedback than just, I don't like it, can we change it? So I always suggest and recommend to keep asking them mini questions as a goal to really get more constructive feedback out of them, and you really understand the root of why they don't like a certain thing, and they may have to discover that the solution is really, really simple in the first place and there was no reason to changing it. Another tip is never agree to changing something on the spot. Always say that you're going to take some time after the presentation and after hearing all the compiled feedback to really assess what needs to be changed and what doesn't need to be changed, because you don't want to box yourself in a specific place of changing something when it doesn't really need to be changed. So never say yes or no to anything immediately on the spot. You can always say that you can assess later after you've both slept on the presentation, basically. Now, the next question is kind of a follow-up to the first direction, and it's, I love both directions. Is it possible to take an element from here and put it there? So remember when I talked about the confused salad? Sometimes it happens, and this time I kind of want you to stand your ground a little bit. Being a confident designer is knowing when to stand your ground and when to give a little leeway and to agree on certain changes. So here you're acting as a consultant to the client basically, and you're literally consulting them and advising them not to do this. Because when we mix and match elements into certain directions, like I said before, you get a very confused looking brand because you have elements that were not meant to be there together. So instead of saying, no, this cannot be done, you want to offer a different solution. Different solution would be to see what the direction is lacking, essentially, and we can start to fill that gap with other elements or even new elements, but not take elements from the other direction, if that makes sense. Kind of fill the gap in a way that makes sense for that direction only, if they like the majority of a certain direction. So the last question that I've included here is, I don't like anything at all. Can we start from scratch? Now, I just want to say that this happens very, very rarely, and it's not going to happen often if you do all the steps from the beginning of the process correctly in terms of have a detailed brief, a strategy, mood boards, and you're aligned in all the steps. So there's a reason we do all of these steps in the beginning in order to reach this part of the presentation, of the design presentation, and get an immediate approval, or an approval with minor feedback, but not changing the entire direction, not liking anything at all. This is why I stress upon really putting a lot of effort and time into the first phase. However, let's just say that this happens. So again, you need to understand the root of the problem and the root of the question. And I always like to refer them back to the beginning phase of this project, and we discuss again the mood boards and the brief and all the factors and all the information details we aligned on from the beginning. And then I see and assess if the problem is in this area that got affected by the design, or do we need to change the brief and change the whole mood board and basically start from scratch from this part. And then the client would be informed that this would mean starting a new project from the beginning. Or scenario B, you could revisit that part of the project, go over the brief again and the strategy and the mood boards, and then the client would discover, oh, okay, that makes sense. I see why you did this and this and this and that. But perhaps can we maybe change this to here, and then you'd kind of flip the question to not liking anything at all to liking something but wanting to change a specific factor after seeing that part of the presentation. So you have several parts to go about it. You just need to understand the root of the problem. And the final tip I have for you is to never take anything too personally. I understand that in design, we pour a lot of ourselves into our work, and it is personal at the end of the day. But when it comes to presentations and conversations with clients, or in a professional environment in general, don't take things personally, because at the end of the day, this is a service, a solution you're offering to a problem, and it is your job through discussion and communicating to solve that problem. It is not a reflection of you as a person, it's a reflection of the work, of the brief, of the brand, of the process in general. So try to take a breath when you're talking to a client, speak slowly, speak calmly, speak confidently, and your tone of voice really matters, because then it will put them at ease and you'll find that it'll be a very smooth and fruitful conversation. And that's pretty much it. So these are just some sample questions. If you have any more questions that you got asked or you think you might get asked, please post them in the discussion forum below, and I'd love to chat about them with you.